Mr. Marcel and his wife here today. Thank you. Amen. We appreciate them very much. Certainly appreciate him. He's been running the Bluegrass 10,000 for a number of years, and I've seen him there the last few years. But we thank God for all of you. We're just happy to be here today. You'll be patient with me here for a few moments. I want to share a few things with you, and then we'll be on the way. You ever read the Bible? You see something really catches your attention, and intrigues you, to the point that you start thinking about it. Maybe you do a little reading on it or explore the subject just a bit. Has that ever happened to you, Pastor? It happens to me. There are occasions when things just seem like, the term I use, they just kind of leap off the page at you. So you've got to take some time to look. And it happened to me today, as a matter of fact, when I was preparing to come. You know, you always want to share something that's relevant with people. You don't want to insult them standing up in front of them and wasting your time. I pray I never do that. I think I've seen ministers do that. I think it's an awful thing to play your audience in that insensitive way. So I always pray God will give me something relevant to say. But I was reading and in Matthew, and it's not something I haven't read before. I shared this with the local church where I pastor, this particular part of text. But today, it really leaped out at me. And where I'm reading, I'll read it to you. This is probably the most important end-time chapter in the Bible. I know that Daniel prophesied, and there are other prophecies, but I don't parallel anyone above Jesus. And that includes Daniel. And it includes the writing in John and Revelation. I just think Jesus' words are so important to us. And I use all the entire Bible. So I use the prophets. But I pay close attention to the words of our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. And when it comes to end time, of course, no one knows the end time better than Jesus, because he's the focus of the end time. So he says something in Matthew 24, a whole list of things, pointing alerts and warnings and to us of some of the things that will be a part of the time leading up to when the Lord shall return. But in Matthew 24, verse 31, he says this. It caught my attention today in a way that it's not caught my attention before. In verse 31 of Matthew 24, Jesus says this. And he shall send his angels with a great sound of a trumpet, and they shall gather together his elect from the four winds, and from one end of heaven to another. And I read that and said, wow, that's interesting. And it started me to think about angels. Right? Angels. Angels are used throughout the Bible. I mean, from the Old Testament on through the New Testament, you will find that angels have appeared and angels have interacted with humans, and God has used angels for special missions and special times, and people have encountered angels. It's documented in the Bible. And they're really agents of God that he uses for special events and special occasions. And they operate at his disposal, his dispatch. And I remember some cases where you probably will recall as well, where angels have been used in the Bible. Angels were used at the birth of Christ. They were part of the messaging agent that were used when Christ was born. Angels were used at his death. Angels were used in Matthew, the 4th chapter, when Jesus was motivated through the Spirit to fast 40 days and 40 nights and went into the wilderness to be tempted of Satan. Angels were used to refortify him and to strengthen him. So angels are not uncommon in Scripture. But they are created beings by God. They're not reproductive beings. They're created beings by God that he uses. They have supernatural powers that God has given them. So, looking at this end time chapter 24, you read it at your leisure. I think all of us should read that chapter and become familiar with it, because it really stemmed from a conversation that Jesus had with his disciples when they were marveling at the beauty of the temple. And Christ said something sobering to them, indicating that there would come a time when the temple would be destroyed. And from there were other questions that they asked Jesus, end time questions. Want to know when would the destruction happen, and what would be the nature of his coming, and the end of the work. And so when they went down that list of things, Jesus just opened up information to them that they had not heard before. He talked about signs of his coming, and he talked about false Christ that would appear. He talked about calamity. He talked about famine. He talked about drought. He talked about a whole list of things. These things are spread out over millennia. They're spread out over large blocks of time. Sometimes people look at this and think, well, it's now. No, it's not just now. When Jesus forecast the destruction of the temple, that happened some 70 years after his death. When the Romans came through Jerusalem, captured it, destroyed the temple. That's a part of his prophecy too. So look how long that's been. So he says wars and rumors of wars and all of that, that's happened over a long period of time. So people kind of look at things and equate this prophecy to now. No, this prophecy has been ongoing since Jesus spoke the words. And when you think about all the wars that have happened since the death of Christ, all over the world. So I just say that to kind of frame his words, because we look at, oh, this is the end time. Well, we have been living in the prophecy of Jesus since his death. So I just say that. But a part of this, in verse 31, when we get down to here, there have been a lot of experiences concerning the return of Jesus Christ and all the tribulation, great tribulation that people talk about. Jesus spoke about that in his prophecy in Matthew 24. Turbulence, tribulation is a world it's never seen before. But at the end of all of that, he speaks of verse 31, answering or responding to the question concerning his return. And what's interesting, in verse 31, it says, he shall send his angels. God will send his angels. And he'll do it in his own time. He'll do it in his own time. But the peace with the angel really got in my system. I can't say this. Now, I'll get back to the text. I can't say this with absolute authority. But I feel I've encountered angels. In one incident in my life. I hadn't seen them. But I had an incident some years ago where I had an automobile accident. The automobile accident was dramatic. Wish it had been on YouTube. I wish there had been a camera to document it. It was just spectacular. And by all accounts, I should have been dead. Should have killed me. It was just that dramatic. It happened right off of 421, better known as Leestown Road, driving from Lexington to Frankfort. It happened about 7:30 in the morning. Well, my car, and I don't know what it did, but I was traveling west. My car turned. Driving about 60, 65 miles an hour. Car did a 180. But it started down the road backwards. Then a little snow. Not cold enough for any freezing, just a little scattering on the road. The car went around the road, rolled off the road backwards. And there was virtually nothing I could do. There's really nothing I could do. But I'm sitting in the driver's seat. Now I'm running down the road backwards at 50, 60 miles an hour, and my car is completely out of control. It proceeded to roll off the road. And when it rolled off the road, it started down a little hill. Then it started over some boulders. Then it flipped. Then it crashed through two different sets of fences. And proceeded to go, according to the state police, end over end. And I'm sitting in the seat, and all I saw were lights, moving visuals, but I didn't know whether I was upside down, sideways in the seat. You know how it is when you're tumbling. awful sounds. Something about automobiles, if you've ever had an accident, when there's an impact, there's really noise. You know, I mean, big noise. So I hear all this bumping and banging as this car tumbles, and then I hear glass breaking. And you say, well, where are the angels in all of this? I can't validate this. But it seemed to me that car was being controlled in a situation that was out of control. It tumbled, it just tumbled. And this is my description, all right? It's my description. But it was as though as the car tumbled over these boulders, and as it was going to endanger me, to throw me out of the car, or the worst to happen, it was like there were forces that stopped it and moved it, and then it started another direction, and then it was like another force stopped it, moved it, and controlled it until it finally came to rest. And my description of that is that God sent angels to handle that. Because it was going this way, and then it's like something blocked it, and then it rolled another way, and then it's going to roll off of that boulder, and then it was blocked, and then it rolled another way, and then it was blocked until finally it crashed through the final fences, came to rest next to two fence posts. And I don't know how that could have happened the way that it happened, unless there was some divine supernatural help. I was not wearing a seat belt. I was not thrown out of the car. I was not injured in any way. I did not receive any bruises or abrasions or cuts. But it was dramatic. So, by my simplistic definition, I had an encounter with angels that were dispatched to help me out. God does use angels. But I started thinking about angels. In this case, in verse 31, God sent, He's going to send the angels with a great sound of trump, and they shall gather His elect from four winds, from one end of heaven to another. I started thinking, what about these angels? You know, I mean, they have power, they have presence, they have all of that, and God uses them. So it intrigued me. And in Matthew 26, if you're tracking with me, in Matthew 26, chapter 26, if you bear with me, we are going somewhere with this. But in Matthew 26, and this is very familiar with you, to you as well. In Matthew 26, verses 50 through 53. You can read those at your leisure. But it gives an account of the abduction of Jesus Christ and started the chain of events that Jesus suffered before his crucifixion. This is where Judas betrayed him. Judas betrayed him with a kiss. He knew the place Jesus would be. He's going to show the soldiers that were involved in the abduction of Jesus. He's going to show them, he gave them a sign. And you start reading about verse 47, you get the whole picture where he was betrayed. He'd already had the last meal with his disciples. Some folks call it the Lord's Supper. It's actually a Passover meal with his disciples. And they came with swords and staves, the high priest, the elders. They came in a hostile manner to capture him. Judas was the key, because he was the master deceiver. This is a case where Peter took his sword, went after the servant of the high priest, took the sword, cut off the man's ear. Because he was afraid. He was also doing he could to protect Christ. That's where Jesus told him, put the sword up. We don't want, I don't need your sword. Put it up. But Peter was trying to get the man. My personal opinion has always been, since I've studied this enough to have to understand it, that Peter really wasn't after the man's ear. He was trying to cut his carotid artery. It runs up through your neck to your brain. He was going after the carotid artery, decapitate him. That's what he was after. It just so happens that he missed. But in verse 52, then said Jesus unto him, he's talking to Peter, put up again thy sword into his place, for all they that take the sword shall perish with the sword. And he says something in verse 53 in connection with what we're talking about. Thinkest thou that I cannot now pray to my Father, and he shall send presently, or he shall presently give me more than 12 legions of angels? Angels again. Tells Peter, put up your sword. And in everyday language, he says, man, don't you know that I could pray to the Father and he would right now give me more than 12 legions of angels to take care of this. I don't need your sword. Because the warfare that I'm in, your sword won't do any good. Your sword's weak.
Yeah.
But I can call on the Father. Hey, I want you to get this. I can call on the Father. And he would send more than 12 legions of angels to take care of this man. Our subject today so you can focus on it, is the angelic host. The angelic host. The angelic host. Because here, in a desperate moment, Jesus says, I could call my Father, I could connect with God. He would send more than 12 legions of angels to take care of this problem. He invokes a concept again of angels being used. The same way he looked at it in Matthew 24 and 31. This is what caused me to think. I'm saying, what will this scene be like? What does this look like? He's going to send his angels to the four winds and gather together his elect from all over the world. I'm saying, wow. And when I look here at Matthew 26 and looking at verse 53, it begins to give me a glimpse of maybe what that might look like. Because for this one incident, I want you to get this now, just one incident, who do you have? You got the high police, you got the servants, you got a few soldiers, you got some folks there. But he says, look, I could get 12 legions of angels down here in a heartbeat. In a twinkle of an eye. They could be here. Well, how many angels is that? I say, wow, how many angels is that? Well, a legion of angels can be 6,000. From 3 to 6,000, most folks say 6,000. So for the sake of this conversation, I'm saying 6,000 angels per legion. Yeah, I get this now. 6,000 angels per legion. And how many legions is he going to call? 12. How many